Hello and welcome back to A.R. Tales, aka the A.R.T podcast. I am A.R. and today I am joined by Medea Kalantar, author of the Honey Cake book series, the children book series, beautifully illustrated and just really awesome vibes for the young ones. Medea, how are you doing?
Thank you so much for this wonderful intro and for having me on the show, AR. I'm fantastic. So honored and grateful to be here with you today.
Oh, well, thank you very much. On to you. I usually like to start the podcast where people can find you for the people that are, because I do make banners for the actual
Yes,
YouTube video, but for just people that are listening on, where can people find you? Website, Twitter handle.
absolutely. So everything's the same. So my website is www.honeycakebooks.com. My Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the same at honeycakebooks. That's where you can find me.
Awesome. And just for the people listening in, that's just regular honey, HONEY, regular cakes, CAKES. Boom boom.
There's no S. This honey cake.
Oh,
It's
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. That's right. That's all
Uh,
right. Yeah, it's the honey cake. It's honey cake. So it's HONEY. Yeah, CAKE and then books. BOOKKS. The S is at the books.
there, I'm sorry. I'm
That's
sorry.
all right. It's all good.
Well, that's why we do this to make sure that everything's like hammered in. People know where to find you. But
Yeah.
on to how I usually like to. Because this is a pretty open form, but I usually
Yeah.
like to start off asking where your inspiration came from when you started writing.
Absolutely. So I'm not the typical writer story. Like I never envisioned of actually becoming a writer. I have no literary background. I don't have any English background. So I have no formal training to be a writer. It all came from the divine because in 2018, my daughter Shanaz, who was actually preparing to get for her wedding because she was engaged, found out she was pregnant. And it was such a miracle in itself because my daughter suffers from PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian system. So it's very difficult for her. She would have had to have children. But I was so excited and so elated that I was going to become a grandmother that I started to bake a honey cake in honor of my grandmother, my Bebby. So it's like a full circle moment for me as I was becoming a grandmother. And while I was making the cake, I was thinking of all the delicious ingredients the cake has. It has honey, of course, and cinnamon and cloves and coffee and just all these rich ingredients. And I was thinking, this cake is going to be like my future grandchild because I'm from Georgia, south of Russia. My husband is Persian, but my daughter's fiance is Jamaican and Guyanese. So my grandchild has all these different ethnicities. So he would be a honey cake. So that's how the title of the series came along.
Huh.
And then I woke up one day and I wrote 5 books in 4 days. Like all I can tell you is I was channeling these messages and I wrote these books. And the stories are all everything I believe in to begin with. And they're all based on my actual family. So, like all the characters in the books, if you see them, it's my actual family. The only fictional character is Nala because when I actually wrote the books, I didn't know what Shanaz was having. I didn't find out till later on that she was having a boy, which actually Lucenzo makes an appearance in the fifth book as baby Luca, and that's actually what he looked like when he was born. So that's where the inspiration came from, because it's more than a recipe for cake; it's a recipe for life. So the correlation between the cake and the correlation between the ingredients of of human beings, that we celebrate our culture and we celebrate our diversity, but we have to remember that at the end of the day, no matter where we come from or what color our skin is, we're all one race, and that's the human race, and we're all one. So that's where the inspiration came from.
Now that's a beautiful message. Now, part of the main thing that attracts me to that everything that you just said is also the background that we talked a little bit about before we hit record about you being a Reiki master.
Yes,
So I think, and not only a Reiki master, but professionally, that's what you were doing
yes, right.
prior to the whole writing game.
That's
So
right.
it is interesting to me because a lot of people that I talk to, not that I've talked to like so many people, but of the people that I talk to that I've had a fortune of the good fortune of speaking with,
Yes,
a lot of them incorporate their past professions or their current professions into their own writing.
that's
So,
right.
how did that kind of transition, and how did those teachings of being a Reiki master transition into the Honey Cake series?
So everything, first of all, when I work with clients, when I do Reiki or intuitive healing or spiritual coaching, I always start with self-love because we never are taught with self-love, because with your number one relationship you have with before you have with anyone else is with yourself. And no one ever tells you that you should love yourself, you should be grateful for yourself, you should support yourself in everything you do. So everything is infused with love with all the books. Now, the second book, Help I Swallow the Butterfly, is actually my teachings of how to do step by step meditation, deep breathing exercises, and also setting positive intentions. So, because life is challenging at any age, but with the right tools and obstacles, we can overcome any mindset. We can overcome any obstacle. I'm sorry. So, I thought it was really important that everything we teach to adults, because I didn't actually start my spiritual journey until I was in my 40s. And I didn't start meditating and doing all this self-love healing until I was much older. And that's what most people don't do. They grow up and they finally realize what they're supposed to be doing. But I thought children are so malleable and so important to teach these valuable life lessons at such a young age that by the time they are adolescents, by the time they're adults, they're more rounded, they're more healthier, well balanced mind, body, and spirit. So, and it's really important. But at the same time, I want to showcase multicultural, diverse families because there are so many children and families like ours that aren't being properly represented out in the world. And I want them to feel that, hey, like that's like my family. I'm a honey cake. I'm a little bit of mix of something. So that was also very important for me to showcase that.
Now, I have to say, just as a side note, and it popped into my mind the moment you said it, I have a sweet tooth the size of this painting behind me. You can't see it because I have it like cloaked up behind in Harry Potter's cloak, but it's massive. And what is a honey cake? Believe me,
So
I'm a
hun-
fan of confection. I've never heard of honey cake.
no problem. So honey cake is very similar to, it's a cross between a pound cake and a sponge cake. So it's not as dense as a pound cake and it's not as light and fluffy as a sponge cake. It's very in between, but it's very rich and it's so delicious and yummy. Like it really is. The longer it sits in a container, the more delicious it gets. It's I can't describe it. It's like a coffee cake, almost like a coffee cake.
Mm.
But then the recipe is actually at the back of the first book. So because the first book is called The Family of Spices, right? So Nala's about, she wants to know why
Yes,
she
thank God.
calls,
Yeah, the one that's
right? Yeah,
little.
that's the book.
The back too, and the
So
spine and everything.
yeah, so the grandmother's teaching Nala how to bake a honey cake, and she's explaining how each delicious ingredient in the cake represents a different family member with his or her unique ethnic background. And at the back of the book is a recipe of how to make your own delicious honey cake in the first book.
So if that wasn't enough, if the book itself wasn't enough of a sale to go and get this book, the recipe definitely is out on Amazon right now. You already know later we'll show off the whole Amazon page, but up now, Honey Cake Book Series, Amazon, check it out. You need to. But
Thank you.
onto the whole idea that you were talking about with the whole family of spices. I love
Yeah,
that.
thank
So
you.
again, I rarely get personal into this, but I myself am a family of immigrants. So
Right,
as being kind of because I'm not first generation, my kids will be first generation, right?
right,
So
right.
what we're seeing a lot is that I guess we're kind of like mixing in. People
Yes,
are getting married to different races and things like that, and like it's
right.
beautiful because
It is beautiful.
you almost get like a scared that like your family isn't going to be progressive in a sense, but then those people come along of all different things, genders and sexualities and like races, and they're
That's right.
treated, I mean, just as everybody else. And when there's a new baby, that baby could come out with alien ears and purple, same love. It does not matter. Everyone's going to be grabbing that baby like, oh, come here. It's unreal to see that type of just I don't know, I guess like man, I can't remember the quote from the author, but it was like babies like just bring like an energy to
Yes,
people that it just like illuminates like a village. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
the whole analogy that a village is like is a babe, like a village is what raises a child. I think it goes both ways. I think the village is
yes,
also affected by the child. You know what I mean?
absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I always say that, we're in life, we're teachers and we're also students. And it doesn't matter how old you are. See, for me, my grandson, as a newborn, I learned so much from him. He's now 2. He just turned 2 a couple of days ago. And I learned so much from him. So as much as that I'm teaching him, he's also teaching me. And that's what we have to remember, is that it goes both ways. It doesn't matter how old you are, you're constantly learning and you're always teaching at the same time. So that's the beauty of these books too, is that it's showing that we're learning from these children, and we're trying to get rid of the old way of thinking and trying to put into new way of, of doing things in life, because like, I don't know about you, back in the day, like, because I'm from Georgia, it's very old school mentality, is
Definitely.
that, like, that's why I have the fourth book with the circle of trust, is really important, having honest and open communication in a safe space. Why is that important? Because so children can grow up to speak their truth and not afraid to vocalize their feelings. But in the old days, if you were acting up, they would tell you to be quiet or you get reprimanded, or they would give you a sweet treat to kind of keep you quiet. Now, if you think about that, what is that implanting in a child's brain? It's saying that you can't speak up. You have to be suburban. You have to be quiet. You're not allowed to speak your truth. You're not allowed to express your feelings. So people grow up as an adult not able to communicate, or
Hmm.
they know that when they're having emotional problems, they go to food to eat. So they have an eating disorder. So these are all such, important information that we have to teach at a young age. So with their circle of trust, is building that foundation of trust. So when children are able to go to their loved ones and speak to them if something goes wrong in their lives, they know that they have that safe haven to have that open and honest communication. So by the time they're older, they know that for more difficult things are happening, they know they can still go to their loved ones because they have that open communication already implemented.
Now that's a beautiful sentiment, and it's something
Right?
that I think really rings true because, um, again, it's a cultural thing for sure.
Yes.
But in my family, the way that we were raised, I mean, I would say it's like what, like 1960s, about, if we were kind of like to put it as far as like old school.
Yes.
And I mean, honestly, being an immigrant here has helped a lot. I mean, like the think back on how we thought when we first moved here compared to like now. I mean, last time we all got together, I think we had like a powwow of just emotions. It was
Yeah.
unreal. It was one of the most like cathartic things ever, just because there were no more like young people at the cookout anymore. All the
Mhm.
babies, like I'm the youngest, you know what I mean? We're like
Right. Right.
in a circle, just like talking about all the babies aren't like around, and we had just a genuine like powwow of just like, repressed emotions from like XYZ, and it
Right.
was just unreal, because it's like things that like, as you said, when growing up in like my generation, it was all about, speak when spoken to, especially if you're young. You have no
Exactly.
opinion in this matter whatsoever, and even things that like were like detrimental to your
Yes.
like life. Well, not
Yeah.
detrimental, but like, critical to you.
Right.
Like I was moved around, like, you would think I was like an army brat.
Yeah.
And I was moved
Yeah.
around just at whim, and there was no decision, no anything.
Yeah.
So 100%, especially with everything you're talking about, the child growth and development. It makes me wonder, do you also have like a background in psychology, sociology?
I don't actually. No, I don't have that. I have a business degree actually. Prior to this, before I used to work in big corporations. As an executive in Rogers and Shaw. And I'm from Canada, so you probably don't know. You're from the U.S., correct?
I'm from Dominican Republic, but
Oh, Dominican. But no, but where right now you're living
right
in the
now I'm in the
U.S.
US. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I love Dominican. It's so great. I love it there. Yeah. So I was working for major corporations. And then after my third time of my whole department being laid off, I'm like, okay, universe, what are you trying to tell me? I discovered that this is what not my sole purpose. My sole purpose was something else. Like I'm meant for mission work. There's 144,000 of us on Earth. Is part of the collective, and we're here to serve, transform, and influence the planet for the higher good. So yeah, so it all started with my spiritual journey, and it's all started with just basically just working on myself because I didn't have a very good childhood myself. So all the challenges I went through as a child, I made sure that I learned that everything I went through was a lesson to learn, because I don't believe in winning or losing. I believe in winning or winning, because either you reach the goal you want, or you win, or you learn a very valuable life lesson, which is something I actually put in my fifth book with counting on my blessings, to live life with gratitude, and that we have to be thankful for everything in life, everyday miracles, not just the materialistic things, but also when things go wrong and the mistakes we make and the challenges we overcome. Because, all everything in life is so beautiful. It's just the way you look at things, right? You don't want to look at yourself as a victim mentality. You want to look at yourself as a victor, and that we're not here only just to make it, we're here to make it better, right? So
Mm.
that is my philosophy.
So, would you say that you get a lot of your inspiration from your family? I mean, you said that in the fifth book you had the illustration of Luca, right?
Yes, yes, the
And
fifth book. Yes,
when you show the books, just show it up a little higher. And if you
a little bit
could,
higher. Sorry, yeah,
and if you
sorry, here you
could
go.
do a nice little turn too, so people can see the
Uh,
back. Yeah, there
okay.
we go. Nice. Thank you.
The ring light, affects everything, so there you go. Yes, so that's my daughter Shanaz, and that's my son-in-law Brandon, and that was the fictional, but that's Luca, who just turned 2. His actually name is Lucenzo. So yeah, he just turned 2. So yeah, like, all the books is everything I believe in. Like the first book, like, it's teaching about diversity and ancestry. The second book is about teaching about how to overcome anxiety and stress with meditation and deep breathing exercises. The third book, Special Magical Powers, is teaching about the spirit of giving. So the special magic powers we all have, which is kindness, because kindness is needed now more than ever. So teaching children that they have that ability, even just by smiling at people, you can make their day from bad to good. Or, she's actually going to a shelter to donate her unused toys and clothes to help children who've lost everything in a fire, because they have to be exposed that not everybody's blessed. There are some families that are struggling. So I introduce that in my stories. I'm teaching them that how grateful they should be in their life. If you wake up every day and you're breathing and you're able to move around and you have clean water to drink or bathe with, and you have a roof over your head, like, that's amazing. This is all great things to be grateful for. But people think that having the latest gadget, the newest toy, or the biggest house or biggest car, that's what they should be gratitude is. No, gratitude, that's just material things. Every day's a joy, and we have to be grateful for it. So yeah, and then, and I talked about a circle of trust. So teaching the foundation of building that foundation of trust, and building that honest and open communication, a safe space. And then the last book was counting on my blessings. So teaching about gratitude, introducing a gratitude journal. Start, noting down all the things that you're grateful for. So giving these kids these lessons, and but in a way that it's entertaining, but at the same time it's educating and empowering and enlightening. So even though these are children's books, they're kind of secretly like almost a little hidden message for parents as well. But I've had like adults read and tell me they love the books. So I think you read one too, didn't you, AR? You did
Yes.
one for the, which one did you read actually? I don't even know which one you read.
Well, I read the sample of the first one off your website.
Okay.
Yeah.
The family of spices.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is why
Okay.
I made the whole reference to it in the beginning.
Okay, gotcha.
I was actually gonna ask you where you get the inspiration of turning uh kind of these messages into these entertaining stories.
Well, remember, I was channeling the information. So I wrote 5 books. I wrote these books, like I wrote 5 books in 4 days. So
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was given, like, from the divine, from God, source, love, whatever you want to call, these messages that I had to give out. But like I said, I live and breathe. Everything you read in the books is how I live my life. It's how I treat my children. It's how I treat my grandson. And it's what I truly believe in. And that's why, like, I think it resonates so much with everybody, because when you read it, you're like, yeah, I totally can understand how this Nala's feeling in this situation, whatever situation, because it resonates with you, right?
Mm.
Like when you go watch a comedy show, you laugh the hardest at a joke that you can relate to, right? Because it's evoking that emotion in you. Same with the
It
books.
depends, actually.
Well,
Because
it's
sometimes the
something that
things that make you laugh was what you don't relate to, and you're like, my God, what a weird thought.
maybe, but for me, anyways, the things that make me laugh the most is what I am like. Oh my god, that is so me. Like that just happened to me. Not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with the books, like children relate to. Like I've had a family. I have so many messages from parents all over the world thanking me. It's funny because most of them think that it's so nice just to have a book that represents their family, but then they find out it's so much more. Like the stories is universal,
Mm.
so that every child like from all over the world can understand what the messages are, and they relate to it and they resonate with it. But they were telling me that her daughter was really suffering from anxiety and stress, but because and she didn't want to go to a counselor, and she was like 7 years old. She didn't want to go to a counselor, she didn't want to do anything that anybody tried to teach her. But because she read the first book, A Family of Spices, when she brought the second book with Help I Swallowed the Butterfly, she immediately implemented what she learned in the books to help her overcome her anxiety and fear.
Wow.
So it was so great because she's like, oh, Nala's doing it, so I'll do it. So like that's so beautiful to me that sometimes it's almost like a parenting guide and a tool for parents as much as it is a beautiful story and for children to enjoy. So that's what I love about it. So it's so layered. The books are very layered and very diverse, just like the characters.
Now, the whole inspiration that you did the 5 books in the 4 days.
Yes.
Now, I understand that you got like the whole messages from the divine, but
Yes.
how did you transform that into kind of like a plot into the whole entertainment sector of it, right?
So honestly, this is how I went down. I'm not joking. This is how it went down. I'm a very visual person.
Hmm.
I did everything on my iPad. So I downloaded this app that looks like a storybook. Because while I was writing, I had to see how it would look. How would I couldn't just do it in a Word document. It was coming out that way. So I
Hmm.
was watching how the story was flowing. And again, it was everything like, with a family of spices, it was exactly like me making the cake. I made the cake, and that's how it happened, right? Because when I was making the cake, the theme of honey cake came, and that's why I call my grandson a honey cake because he's a little honey cake.
Hmm.
So that's how the first story happened. The second story again is what I was teaching about how to overcome anxiety and stress with step-by-step meditation and deep breathing exercise. So again, that's something that I know to do. That's what I teach. And then the third book with the magical powers, like kindness is so important to me. I always say that uh, my love is my church and kindness is my religion. I live every day with the word hope. Help one help others every day, like like help another person every day, something like that. So oh help other people every day, that's what it is. Help other people every day, for the word
Hoped.
hope. Yeah, help other people every day. So if you just help somebody, just one person every day, it just like it makes the world such a better place. And just spreading love and light and kindness to everyone that you meet, it just makes such a difference because there's so much negativity going on in the world with everything that's going on with the pandemic, with Black Lives Matters, with like wars in other countries and poverty. Like people are suffering, and we want to put something out there that has a little bit of glimmer of hope and positivity, and actually teaching something at the same time that there's a study says that if you integrate books that has diverse characters with children at an early age, it becomes a normal thing to them, and that it's normal. Because if you take little children side by side, like 5 years old, 6 years old, and you show them a picture of a child, a little girl, a little boy playing, they say like, what's this little girl? They go, well, that's a little girl, and that's a little boy. They don't look at color. They don't say that's a black girl, that's a black boy, or whatever, brown boy, Asian. They don't look at culture. They don't look at race. They just see that's a little girl, that's a little boy. You know what I mean? So we want it to be that it's a normal thing to see mixed interracial families, to see like that we're all the same, that every child needs to be represented, that we're all the same at the end of the day. So these are very powerful messages that I knew that had to come out, and the world needed to hear it.
And they definitely do. And again, Amazon, Honey Cake book series.
Yes.
you know what else is there? Well, again, we'll get into all the books again. And you have 5 books out, right?
Five of them. Yes.
Yes. So again, get in there. Well, it's actually kind of funny. So you have the family spices
Yeah.
first book, and then there's
Yeah.
5 altogether. So it's the family of 5.
That's funny. That's right. That's true. The number five always comes in series. Yeah. But yeah, but it's funny how like the last book tied in with gratitude because, it's such a big part of my life, right? Living my life every day. I wake up and I say, thank you, God, for another day of being alive. Thank you for all my blessings and all the abundance in my life and for all the abundance yet to come. And then every step I take, I say, thank you. Like when I'm brushing my teeth, I say, thank you,
As
because
you're brushing your teeth,
people,
huh?
yeah, for sure. Because like I had a rare blood disorder and I was diagnosed at 32. My kids were very young, and the doctor said, "You're not going to make it. Say goodbye to your kids. Say goodbye to your husband. You're not going to make it." And I'm like, "No, I will make it. You can't tell me I'm not going to make it," because a lot of people, it's the fear that scares them into giving up, and I just kept fighting through. But I was put on such high doses of medication that I couldn't really do things for myself. Like I couldn't shower because I had a central line, and you know it's unfortunate, but most people, until things are taken away from them, you don't feel gratitude for it. Little things that you don't, like able to shampoo your own hair, get dressed, or even feed yourself and put your shoes on. Everything that we take for granted every day, it's a life, is a miracle, it's a blessing. And we don't think of it that way. Imagine if everybody thought how wonderful every day is, then
Hmm.
you're not like lacking or wanting. So the kids that grow up with gratitude, they always are so successful because they're never wanting for anything more. They're just happy with what they're doing.
Hmm. Yeah, that is a pretty good thought.
Yeah.
Now, walk me through the kind of behind the scenes. So
Yes.
you write these 5 books in 4 days.
Yes.
What happens from there? You make it on the app. What happens from there?
So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. What am I supposed to do with this? So I started to do some research because I have no coaching, had nobody to kind of guide me through. I found a hybrid company in Victoria, BC, that what they do is it's like so when you're an indie author, you're self-published, but there's publishing houses that's called a hybrid publishing house, where it's not like a traditional publishing house where they give you an advance and then they take your books and whatever. I had full control. I have full copyright on all my books, every illustration, everything to the T was with my, like I had to hand walk it because it was my vision. But they provided the cover design, the interior, the editing, the illustrator. They did all the, like they put the book together, then they put it into distribution. So it's quite heavy cost. But I was like, I have a very business and analytical mind. So I thought, how can I offset the cost? So what I did was I reached out to people and I asked if they wanted to be an advertiser. So I have one person that advertised at the back of every book. There's a little blurb about them. This one is with I Dare You to Be. Um, and they have a lifetime of advertising because these books are sold worldwide, but it offset the cost of how to, publish the book. So the first three books were done by Talwell. I wasn't really happy with the way they were doing things. I made friends
Towel?
with Talwell,
What is that?
Telwell. It's a publishing house in Victoria, BC. So that's
Ah,
the
okay.
hybrid. Talwell is the publishing house. I wasn't really happy with the way things were going with them. So, but I love my illustrator, and that was the only reason I kept going back.
Mhm.
But I found her, and she's actually in Dubai, and we made friends on Instagram, and we did the last two books together, just the two of us. And I loved doing working like that because it was such a great experience, and she's phenomenal. Her name is Isa Zanil, and phenomenal illustrator. I just adored her. She knew exactly what I wanted, and she got it done. So I had to learn along the way. There was some things I didn't know about, and then what I did do is for the first book, I did hire a PR company, and they put out a press release, and I was put on a lot of major TV stations like CHCH. So this is in Toronto, like Canada, like
Mm.
stations. So CTV, CHH, Sirius XM. I was on Canada Now, Reader's Digest magazine, East of the City, Toronto Guardian. So a lot of people for 2 months, I had them help me with that. But then after that, I kind of learned on my own, and I arranged my own interviews and podcasts and TVs and magazines. I just learned on the way. So yeah, so it's just pretty much just learning as I go, and I'm really blessed and lucky that I can't even say that. I shouldn't say lucky because I feel like this was given to me for a reason. So these messages had to come out. So, um, I recently got contacted with a production company, and we adapted now Honey Cake to become an animated TV series that we're now pitching to Warner Brothers and Disney and other big places. So that's going to happen. It's going to, within a couple of years. So I'm really excited for that to happen. And then with I Dare You to Be, they want to take the books and put it as part of the package for every school board as part of their curriculum, which is amazing because I have so many teachers and vice principals that come to me wanting these books in their schools because whenever they have diversity week, they're only teaching books with animals. They don't know how actual physical, human beings on the book. So they love that the messages and they show diversity of the different characters in the book. So I know that this was all meant to happen, and I'm just honored and grateful that I'm a vessel and I'm the one that's bringing these messages and this to light. So yeah.
Well, you said a lot of interesting things there.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
uh, well, would you mind? You said that the costs were astronomical at first. Would you mind
Yes.
kind of dropping the spoiler on that, or would
Yeah,
you
yeah. No, absolutely. What you see is what you get. I'm very transparent. So the first three books cost me 5,600 to
altogether, not each?
no each.
Huh. Okay.
Yes, each. And then don't forget, like you still have marketing, your website, and
Yeah. Yeah.
book trailers. You have so much money to invest into
Mm,
these books. And then the second and sorry, the fourth and fifth book was only $2,000
mm.
each. So it was less than half the cost. But I understood that the company charges what they charge because they have overhead, they have rent to pay, and they have to cushion. But I was like, yeah, cushion out of my pocket, no thank you. But
Which is, yeah. Honestly, the main reason I kind of like put that up there, the reason that you said that is because I kind of want to make it as kind of a highlight to any aspiring authors out there. I know that the idea of like going after a publisher seems like enticing because it's kind of like validation. It's like another person that's not like you or your friend group saying like, "Hey, you have a nice workout here. It could make some money," and that's real nice. But
yes,
like, if you really just go on it and invest in your own, I mean, the amount of
yes,
money that you'll save, and on top of that, just like you said it yourself, you have now through Instagram, you now have a more direct contact with your illustrator. I can guarantee you
yes.
by the time you get to book 10, you're going to be able to produce something that's going to be better than book 2 just because you
That's
have
right.
a rapport now,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yes,
I met my
for sure.
I've met my illustrators through the same way. My illustrator is a 17-year-old in Brazil. You think I
Nice.
would have known him without Instagram? Not a
Nope.
chance. Not a chance. And it's unreal how we're completely, there's a 10-year, almost a 10-year age gap,
Yeah,
different, almost a different language. His English is a little shaky,
yeah.
completely just in a whole, I can't even describe the differences, but even yet, when we speak, it's just like I send him one paragraph and that's all I have to send. He understands every little nuance of that one
Yes,
thing. And in comparison, I've worked with professionals that were, 20 years over me, and I
yes.
had to send volumes, volumes of description, and still I get back like 50% of what I asked for. It's like, well,
I understand completely. That's how it was for me with Tellwell. I was like, I don't understand how you're not understanding what I'm trying to get. And with
volumes,
yes,
specifics.
yes,
This, that. I want this
yeah,
and this location, and then you
yeah.
get back the exact opposite. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a
Yeah,
minute.
and there were so many mistakes and errors that they did. It was unreal. But with iSensible, she's all the way in Dubai, and like we're in completely different time zones when we work together. But she
Same.
understood me. Like she understood as soon as I say something, I only had to say it once or maybe twice something else, and that was it. It wasn't like 100 times back and forth like I did with the first, with the first company. Anyways, but I completely understand what you're saying. So and that's the beauty of it, like you know I know that the pandemic has been really challenging for a lot of people.
Mm,
But at the same time, it's brought so many people so much closer, like to people that, that wouldn't have maybe met otherwise, because like having these, interviews and meetings over Zoom than in person. Because I used to go in person in studio when I used to do it, but now I'm reaching such a larger audience. Like, like with Twitter, I have like so many connections around the world, in UK, in France, in the US, in in the islands, like in India, like in Australia, like all these people that I'm reaching that I would never have reached any other way. So I love social media for that aspect, and I love that we're able to have this time, because we were giving this gift of time. Because a lot of people say, if I only had time, I would do this, I would do that. Well, you were given this gift of time. So how are you using it? Are you using it wisely? You know what I mean? So yeah, with in the pandemic, I put out 3 books during, like, I written it, but I didn't have it polished until I put it out. So I purposely spread it out every 4 months that for releases. So now it's completely done. And then
mm.
I'm taking a little break from the book series because I'm focusing on the
The
television series
production,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah, with the production. And then I do what I want to do is eventually have another 5 set for older crowd, so maybe a middle school, and then after again maybe for youth adult. So I want kind of honey cake to kind of grow up with my audience. So then they have preschoolers, middle school, and then teens kind of thing, where their themes and more things that relevant to them that they're going through and challenging in life. So I have that idea that there'll be at least 15 more books to come, like for this series.
Man, that is so interesting. I mean, there's just so much. I mean, it's my favorite thing because I'm young in the game. I
Yeah.
don't even have my first book is coming out. It's not even out yet. So I'm young in the game. My favorite thing is just like hearing people's like stories or experiences.
Yeah.
God, I mean, there's just so much to learn and just every single. I mean, I'm very introspective, I guess, and every single like word that coming out of your mind, I'm just like exploding and just like thinking of how how it'll translate into not only my career but the people that I see.
Yeah.
Oh my god, there really is nothing better than this.
Yes.
um that's why I asked, that's why I thought it was so interesting that you kind of got into this later in the game, because like
Right.
did you get, because I feel the same exact way, and I know exactly what you meant in your intro, that you're not a typical writer. I don't know
Yeah.
why everyone must have like, I don't even know what they must have got, a Bible. I mean, not a Bible, they must have got a manual when they were born of how their life should have been, because I did not get mine, did
I
not
didn't
come
get
in the
mine
mail.
either.
You know what I mean? Amazon was not around. I didn't, I don't know.
Yeah, well,
But like I had no idea, and I'm telling, and I felt like I went every route on the planet. I mean, the things that I did prior to like 22, I mean, I put on every hat imaginable, you know what I mean? And
but
then
that's what it's for. That's what it's for. That's the thing that,
truly, truly.
what? We've been programmed. We have these generational programs that we've been imprinted on, that, this is how the life should be. You go to school, you go to university, you graduate, or you go to master's, whatever. Then you get married, then you have children. Who says it has to be in that order? And who says you have to go to university? And your 20s is for that. It's
Mm-hmm.
to try on every hat, find what your passion is, find out what it's for, make mistakes. Mistakes are okay as long as you learn from it. Because people think that making a mistake is such a bad thing. It isn't. It really isn't. Like that's what life's for. Like try it all out. Like it's like, you're only here for a small moment of time. And how you use that time is, as long as that you're making the world a better place, then that's the whole point, isn't it? Like, we're here, like I said, to make things better. And it doesn't matter how old you are. You could be your age and be an author. You could be my age and starting to be an author, or, it doesn't matter. Age is irrelevant. You know, go for your passions, go for what you want to do, and don't let fear stop you. I always love Maya Angelou's quote: fear and hope can occupy the same space. You choose which one you invite to stay, right? Because things happen to us, life happens. We don't have a choice what happens, but we do have a choice of how we react and how we respond. So, you're in the driver's seat. You are your own creator of life. You can't blame whatever happened to you. The past is the past. Whatever happened, happened. Release it, forgive it, and let it go. Forgiveness is not saying it didn't happen, it's okay. No, forgiveness is actually for yourself. So you don't hold on to that pain and all that,
Mhm.
because I believe a lot of people that when you hold on to pain, it will manifest into an illness because you're not letting things go. So it's really important just to, don't be afraid. Don't let fear stop you from reaching what you want to do. Like I didn't let fear stop me from the financial burden to my family. I didn't know if I was going to be successful. I didn't know if this was going to even be, anybody would read these books. I didn't know, but it's in the unknown. Who cares? Because you know what? I always say, write your story because your story could be someone else's survival guide. So if you can make a difference to one person, then that's bliss. That's amazing.
Man, I like so much of what you said, and two things that I want to kind of go off of that is I think, and I'm glad that you went that you kind of like translated it into fear because I think fear is really a driving point for a lot of people,
Yes.
and it ties into everything that kind of talking about like the whole passion for writing because I think that fear and I feel like a true lack of knowing what your passion is the derivative or a lot of the pain of my generation and I think just people around the world is derived from. And the reason
Yes.
I say that is just when I talk to my friends, simple things because I'm a person that I believe that the micro affects the macro,
Mhm.
meaning like people always think that I'm crazy for like when a person does like a smile like a small little thing, like a person at a Starbucks like takes like a whole bunch of sugars and just like drops like seven of them, and I'm in the corner like saying like, all right, I bet you this person does X, Y, and Z, and my friends are always like, all right, you're crazy, blah blah blah, but it's like, nah, but you're not getting it. Like everything about a person like stacks up, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
the way that person does like treats their cat is probably a derivative of how they treat their kids, how they treat their parents, like everything
Yes.
everything adds up, right?
Yes.
So when I think of small things of like for example, I'm from the inner city. So as like I've been gentrified going to like college and whatnot, I started doing things that people from my neck of the woods wouldn't normally do. I
Right.
started skiing and doing like weird things like that, right? So
Yes.
when I would go and talk to my friends about that, they would always be like, "Oh, why aren't you like scared of falling?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, that's a given. I'm gonna fall 1,006 times." And they're like,
That's
"Yeah, but
right.
how can you like stand that? Like just being embarrassed?" I'm like, "Who cares about being embarrassed? You think every person skiing just like were God the moment they just put their feet on the thing and they just went down no problem? Nobody did that. Even like I don't know, like it's exactly that type of mentality. They just like start like gets my mind going because it's like, dude, how can you think of anything like that? Because you're going to be limited forever. If you're
That's right.
scared of picking up a basketball and not shooting a few hoops because like out of like fear that like the three guys in the corner are going to crack a joke at you, then how are
Yeah.
you going to go for your passions and how are you going to go for your true things?
Exactly.
And then that fear leading into like the true lack of like a passion is also like huge to me because it took me a while to find it, but man, I have to tell you, I know what true love is when it comes to like no with a passion. Know what I mean?
Yes.
There is
Yes.
something about writing the same way that you feel like divine, the love source, however you want to call it. There is something that when I sit down and I have a good idea brewing in my head and everything is clicking, there's no words to describe it.
Yes.
It's ecstatic. It like well, however feeling you get off your favorite whatever, a good cup of coffee, walking in a hike, it's that feeling, just like that. It's that feeling that you 100% know you're doing the
Yes.
right thing.
Yes.
Doesn't matter if you're become a billionaire off of it, like
That's
J.K.
right.
Rowling's. It doesn't matter if you die penniless like Socrates.
Right.
It's just you love doing this.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And did you get that feeling when you kind of transition
Absolutely.
from
Absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely. That's why, like, if you ever seen any of my interviews, and I've done many, I would say like almost 100, I always have the same enthusiasm and the same passion. It's like from the first day I've ever talked about it, because that's how I feel about these books. That's how I feel about what I'm doing in this world. Like I am so excited. Like I'm vibrating in such a level of love and joy that it's contagious. right?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel it?
Yep.
Do you feel my
1000%.
energy? Like,
1000%.
it's contagious because it's how I feel. Like, I've had a long day. It's been a, yeah, I've been up 17 hours, and I was at a, woman in publishing summit as a speaker on a panel. Had to do a photo shoot for Unbox series. Like, there was a lot that was going on. And of course, I never would not miss a day without my grandson. Like, every day I'm with my grandson 3 hours. Me and him, we play. We get on the floor, we play. And that's the most important thing, that, play. Be a child. Be childlike. We forget, doesn't matter that you're an adult. Get on the floor, get play. That's what keeps us young and mobile and happy. We have to remember our inner child.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like sometimes, like, I mean, I'm a huge goof, but like I can be real serious, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
of
like
course.
uh but like no matter how serious I am or like how introspective I get throughout a day, the moment, and I have to tell you, I mean, it wasn't the case today, but there are times that I'll have like just be going through it, and just like the thing that I have like a podcast, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm really gonna have to like, get my energy up in like an hour. And then like I'm having all these like crazy like like anxiety and depressive thoughts,
Right.
and then the moment I hit record, the moment I see the other person, it's like think. I don't know where it comes from. And the thing is that my friends will love to like joke on me and say it's like, nah, you're full of it. It's like I'm not though. That's the weird part. It's that it's actual genuine. It's weird. It's weird. It's
Yeah.
like it's just a side that you're not used to, and that's why it like sounds weird, but it's not. Like I don't know what it is. It's to
Yeah.
me what it is that like when you find something like it's like I like
Your
sports,
purpose. Your
like I
purpose.
but
You found your purpose. Yeah.
100%.
Sorry.
But like no, because you're 100%. There's no reason to apologize. But to me, it's like when because I like sports, but when you hear people that are like, into
Yeah.
sports talking,
Fanatic.
you're over here
Fanatic.
listening. It's like, dude, how are you so involved? So like, like you're over here like just like it's like, dude, I get it. I like drinking and palling around too, but like
Yeah.
you're taking it to another level.
Yeah.
But it's just because like they're into it. They played football. Their dad took them to games when they were 3. They played when they were like 11. They played all the way through high school. They hurt their knee or whatnot, so they had to like relax, but they still have that passion for it, and it's driven throughout all their life.
Well, it's an
And what
emotional connection. What it is, it's an emotional connection to a time of their life that they were most joyful. And that's
exactly
why when they watch it, they remember the feeling they had when we're in that time and place. So that's why they feel that way.
100%, 100%, and like just the way that people just like approach it, and just like the way that emotions change. Because one thing I can't remember the quote, um, but it was basically talking about like how time corrupts memory. Well, not necessarily corrupts, but it just like distorts. So
Okay.
like a certain let's say that using the analogy of a person that's like into sports, right? They
Hmm.
take that thing of like being in love with it as like a child and like doing all those things, but then like when it as it grows older, maybe they kind of get into a industry related to that sport, and then they
Hmm.
start kind of like losing the love for it because it kind of becomes more of like a corporate job affair. And
Mm.
then like and things slowly just start developing in that way. And
Hmm.
so the development and everything is just, which is why it's almost weird that like you almost didn't have that psychological background, because I feel like everything we've been talking about and all the books, I feel like you're just on that line so heavily. And I'm a huge fan of like the psychological aspect too.
Okay, well, that's awesome. I think it's just because, like I said, because I'm an intuitive healer and a spiritual coach, that comes in alignment with, maybe working with the psyche and working, because I do a lot of inner child work. I do a lot of regression of the, dark night of the soul and what people went through, because a lot of people, their healing is from their childhood, that they come to me for. So maybe that's where I'm getting it. I don't know, but um, like I said, I'm just grateful to be able to help in any way, whichever it is, through the books or through my Reiki or however I can, even just helping a person, a new writer, comes to me. I have them always severally coming and asking me to read their books or give them information, and I'm always happy to share and help in any way I can, because I always say that it doesn't matter that we're in the same genre or whatever. We're not in competition with each other. We're here to help each other rise, because we're all in it together no matter what. And that's what we have to remember. We're not in competition with each other. We're here to support one another.
100%. I've said it a couple times in the podcast, but I think people have this idea of success almost like it's like oxygen in a room, whereas
Mm.
like there's only a finite amount of it, and like you need to absorb as much as you can to make sure that other people don't. But it's like it's not. It's just an
Well,
open thing, and especially you, because I feel like you are a pretty heavyweight in the writing community. I mean, most other authors either approach me directly or I approach them directly or some type of in between. You're the
yes,
first so far that I was approached by like a middleman person. It was the
right.
publisher or the I believe your agent that kind of started our rapport. So that's
Yeah.
no, go
It was
ahead, please.
no, it was a company that I hired. It was for a book review service, and
Mm,
they were like, we want to help you with getting more book reviews. We really love your series and what. I have so many people coming to me asking to collaborate in some sort. I'm like, sure, no problem. So yeah, so I'm glad that that's how you found me, and the writing community is a beautiful community. I love them dearly. I make so many friends around the world with them. And like I said, we're here to support each other. I do so many writers left, and like today, my friend launched a book. I did a huge shout out for her. Did a little video. I bought her books and to support her, because that's what it's about.
mm,
And then the new writer that doesn't have as many followers, I try to guide them and put them under my wing, and whatever knowledge I have, I pass it to them, and I try to help them and support them, because that was me 2 years ago, right? It's only been 2 years that I've been doing this. So yeah.
phenomenal, phenomenal. So, do you have any aspirations of starting your own publishing house?
My own publishing house.
Hmm.
No, I do not. I do not have that aspiration. It's funny because like I had it in the back of my head. Wouldn't it be nice to have a publishing house where everything that we've been through, to make it so much easier and more loving and not so rigid, because everywhere else that I've been to was so difficult to have a communication, like with the first company I was with, like you had to, everything was email, there was no communication, like human to human contact. I was like, but I want to be able to speak to my editor, I want to be able to speak to my graphic designer, whatever, but I wasn't able to. I had to have a middle person, and it was almost like lost in translation. It's like when you play telephone tag, like what I originally said wasn't really completed by the end of the person that got it. So if I had connection to like right away to that person, we wouldn't have had all these mistakes, right? So it would be nice and to have a publishing house, but right now I'm a true believer that you know for your return on investment, for your ROI, if you have too many balls in the air, then you're only putting 25% here, 25% there, then your ROI will be 25%. I'm a believer in doing one thing or two things the most, putting 110% in it, mastering it, and then once you master that, then you go on to the next one, because it's all evolving and it's all on top of each other. So I like to focus deeply right now. I did the books. Now we're focusing on the TV production. Then I will focus on something else after that. But I will say never, because who knows? Maybe it will happen. I don't know yet. You know, like there's infinite possibilities of things can happen. But right
Hmm.
now I'm focusing on production.
Now, another thing that kind of caught my eye when you said it, well, caught my ear, I guess,
Yeah.
was because I really like the idea that you're gonna make your main character kind of grow along with its audience.
Yes.
Do you have, I mean, without getting too much into spoilers, do you have kind
Yeah.
of any ideas how you plan to do that, and at what
Well,
level?
yeah. Well, the thing is, like, in every age we have our own challenges. I really want to bring in subject matter, like for the middle school, like there's going to be divorce, there's going to be death, there's going to be um, uh, you know, dealing with like unknown, like sexual identity, or now binary identity, like whatever it is, like people, the actual subject matter that the people are going through. So like everything is what people go through, but in a way that it's gentle enough that they understand, you know what I mean? So like real life matters, like real life things that's happening to people. So there are subject matters that I do want to talk about, and I want to address. So yeah, like it's going to go into real life things that happen to you along the way of your journey of growing up. So yeah, so like real, like, not to get too heavy, so it all depends, but it's something that, like I said, that most people are dealing with in their everyday lives. So something along those lines.
Hmm. Now I like that a lot because again, it's kind of the idea that it is aimed for a certain audience, but it can ricochet all the way up. You know what I mean? Because
Exactly.
I mean, a thing that I kind of like a concept that I feel like and again, what do I know? But a concept that I kind of like picked up a couple years ago was the idea that in like there are no adults as much as there's just like matured children. Like
Hmm.
whatever baggage you got up until like 15 is basically what
Hmm.
is ricocheted all throughout life.
Exactly.
Now the the levels of what that trauma or those experiences are vary differently. It could be
Right.
up to 15. The most you ever had was like, I don't know, like I don't know, you hurt your knee real bad one time. I don't know. And then
Right.
there's people that live obviously way
Yeah.
more dramatic ones.
Right.
But then like those things basically is what ricochets all throughout life. Like I can't remember what movie said it, but it was like High School Never Ends. And it was like it's kind of weirdly true. Like even when you get to like work and you have like a corporate life, there's still cliques, and then like there's
Yeah.
like all those things like still ricochet, and it's
Yeah.
just funny that the same lessons just seem to be on repeat throughout life, and
Yes.
we really never get it like
Yeah.
stuck, you know?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's horrible. And I completely understand where you go through. Like, it's like you're going from elementary school, which is like the pond, then you go to high school, which is like the lake, and then you go to like, university, and then the real world,
It's like, but
but
it's
it's
still
always,
swimming.
it's
Yeah,
swimming. You're
yeah,
still swimming.
yeah.
It's just bigger vast of water. You're still swimming. You still have to go through, you have to dodge the sharks, the bullies, and there's bullies everywhere, whether it's in school or at work, people trying to bring you down and with negative energy. But
Always.
right, there's always that. But it's just, again, like I said prior to, I like, things happen to us that we can't control. We can't control what happens, right? We can't control. There's phenomenal, like, fatalities happen, like with 9/11, things happen, or an accident, or parents divorcing, whatever. It doesn't have to. It's from one spectrum to another. Things happen, but we choose how we react and we respond. We are our own creators. We can decide which path we're going to take. We decide how I'm going to react in this situation. The thing that people have to remember is that whenever something happens, the first thing you should do is just take a deep breath, like take 5 deep breaths, because your breath is like an anchor. It brings
Hmm.
your heart rate down. It lets your body know that it's not a flight or fight response, the immediate thing that you just want to, verbal diarrhea, just say whatever. And then you regret what you say, right?
Hmm.
Because you're just in the heated moment. But if you just remember, just let me just breathe, let me just calm down. And once you breathe, your mind has a chance to, like, okay, digest what's just happening. Even if you're in an argument with someone, just give some space and say, let me just take a breath, let me just breathe before you react. If we all live our lives this way, it would be so much better, because, like, we're such a reactive, you know human beings. We're all so reactive. Unfortunately, we're all ego based with our emotions. But we just have to remember that we are in control. We are in control of our own destiny. And nobody can tell you what your outcome can be. You decide until God takes you, and then that's that. Then that's that.
Man, I love that a lot. Now, just out of like philosophical sense, would you lean on more of an idea of manifest destiny or more of fate?
Well, I think, see, I believe we're all light beings, right? We're all light
Hmm.
beings, and our bodies are just a vessel. These are just a vehicle that we're in accompanying. And some people might not understand what I'm about to say, so it might be a little bit too far fetched, but this is how it goes. That's how I think. I believe that I made a soul contract with God prior to before I became a human being. So all the challenges that I had to go through, I agreed to before I became a human, before I was born, because I had to go through all of that adversity to become the love ambassador, to become the beacon of light, to do what I am doing now. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't have empathy, I wouldn't have understanding, I wouldn't have compassion. So I agree to all these things. So I say that we made a soul contract, and everybody here has a reason and a purpose, even if they're doing the wrong things. And again, I don't believe in wrong or right. It's just the way you're looking at things. It's unfortunate things happen and how people, but they're doing their part, and we're learning from it. It's a learning process, right? And sometimes they're hard lessons. They're very difficult to understand, and it's hard for some people to digest that information, that everything happens for a reason, because sometimes the reasons don't make sense to you at that moment. You know what I mean?
Not only do I know what you mean, but it just brought up a thought that I haven't had in such a long time. Um, can you remember? Have you ever had like a kind of like an epiphany moment where you remember something that your parent or like an older sibling told you when you were like 11, and when you heard it then it just made absolutely no sense, like you were just like you immediately argued back like you're an idiot, like what are you talking about? Well, not I'm not saying,
Yeah, yeah.
not calling my mom an idiot because I would have been
No,
da,
no.
da, da, da,
Yes,
da.
I
Different time,
understand. Yeah,
but
yeah.
but like just the way that it morphs, and then like you
Yeah.
kind of like just like get like it feels like a huge bucket of water in your face when you're like in your 20s and you just like hear like that, like the echo in your head of you like, oh, okay, and you really just kind of like understand type of things, like
Yeah.
it's why kind of in the same way that you kind of like talk about helping people is
Hmm.
what like helps me understand that like a lot of times like when you don't disagree with a person, there's never reason to argue. If you just state your purpose, if you just state your thing with most logic, I guarantee you, if you're at least talking to a reasonable person and you at least like give your argument enough, it will last in their head. They might not see it then, it might take years for them to ever see your point of view again, but trust, if you're dealing with any level of like like sincere human, they're gonna think back on it and just be like, yeah, you know what, because who does, like, I do that all the time. I can't tell you the amount of times that like as you said, you'll be like a heat of a moment, you'll say something and you hear something back and you won't even think about it for years, and like years later you're like, yeah, you know what, yeah, yeah, that was definitely wrong in that moment there.
Hmm.
So it's just interesting the way that we kind of process not just life experiences but like problems and other people's problems and kind of put
Hmm.
all these things together into
Yeah.
our own philosophy, our own glasses in which we like view the world.
Right. And also, it's sometimes the story that we're telling ourselves, it's not even our story.
Yeah.
It's not even our story. We're just believing that was something that was told to us by generation after generation. And it's not something that it's our life that we're supposed to live. So we have to break those patterns of generational limited beliefs. And also, the thing that's really important is that we're so competitive with each other, that we're so wanting to be the one that's always right, to like outdo the other person.
Mm.
But when you do that, it's always making one person's always less than. We shouldn't be fighting and wanting to be, I'm right, you're wrong, you're this or that. It should be like, okay, this happened, what can we learn from this, and how can we make it better so next time we move forward, not like say sorry to me, you were wrong, to prove the point. We shouldn't be living this way. We should be living in a way that we bring each other and rise up together and not feel competitive, because I feel like that's all we've ever learned is like who is right and who is wrong, whether you're a man or a woman. It's always like pointing that finger at
Mm.
someone. So if we just step back and say, you know what, it doesn't matter who was right or who was wrong, something happened, and let's learn from it and let's move on. And if you go with that kind of perspective, life will be so much easier. It really would.
Yeah, I mean, without a single doubt. Well, I mean, I guess a couple doubts. You never know, but I mean, from what I've seen so far, I would definitely agree with you without a single doubt.
Yeah.
Uh, Now one thing that kind of makes me that everything of that just kind of made me kind of lead into of a next thought
Yeah.
is do you think that especially with everything going on today and the major strides that we've been doing to become more collective and be more conscious of each other, which is, without a single question, phenomenal. And it's just the way that we keep on developing and evolving. People always say that we like finished evolving. I think we just stopped evolving from the physical and now we're evolving more mental. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Getting
Yes.
less animalistic in thought and more rational.
Yes.
But do you think there's anything currently that we might have gone too overboard on? A little too kind of, is there anything that you feel that we've is gone too much on the side with what we're doing
Yeah.
right now?
Absolutely. We don't know how to connect with human beings.
Mm,
We're too much in our technology. We're
yeah.
always like, I've had people like, in the same room texting each other. I'm like, are you for real? Like, are
And you can
you
always
serious?
tell them, and it's like, dude, at the moment you put down your phone, you pick it up, and when you put it down, you pick it up. Like, what game are you playing? Like, who is that dumb in this room?
So we that's what I think has been the drawback, is that we're losing the human connection. And even children, they're not going outside and playing and enjoying uh, the beautiful nature that we have outside, whether it's cold or not, just to get that fresh air, have that connection of playfulness. Everything's always electronic now, like even the iPads for children and that, and screen time, and throw them in front of, and I understand people are busy, but that human connection is so important. um, and I think that's the biggest thing that most people are suffering right now, and that's why mental health is on the rise, because we're not made to be separate. We're not made without touching each other and hugging each other. We're meant to coexist with others. We're like a wolf pack. We can't be souls, just by ourselves. So losing that human connection, I think, is the biggest drawback with technology. And I think technology is great. There's so many things that it's improved on so many lives, and but the human connection aspect is what I think that you know that we lost, unfortunately.
I have to agree with you wholeheartedly. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? As you said,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you have your connection with your illustrator in Dubai.
Yeah.
I have mine with Brazil. Obvious,
Yeah.
booms, obvious things
Yes.
that would not have been able to happen without this Instagram, without Twitter, without social
Right.
media. But
Right.
then you have the kind of the negative where people don't seem to be as accepting. I remember when I was younger, there was a genuine rule of conversation that there were five things you don't talk about: family, religion. I can't remember the other three, honestly.
Politics.
Politics, and then some other stuff, right? But it was just like we
Yeah.
just knew that like those weren't things. And the reason why those weren't brought up, or it was polite not to bring that up, wasn't because like we were trying to suppress thought, or like like all these crazy things. It was more because you understood that even if you were cool with a person, if you were to bring up one of these five topics, it could easily go south with anybody. Does not matter. It could be with your mom, and you bring up some stuff, and then it's just like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, you believe this?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like that used, like, I don't know. I think people used to be just, well, I can't say used to be, because I feel like people, every time we use that analogy of like people used to be X, Y, and Z, I feel like people, we grow up and mature, but I feel at the source there's a reason history repeats. It's because people kind of like acting the same way.
Hmm.
Because again, going back to the thing is that we never seem to learn the lesson. We keep on hearing the same lessons from 8 all the way up till 80, and we never up until we're at the gates doors when we finally realize like, oh,
Yeah,
okay, love and all that stuff. Yeah, all right. I was worrying about everything else.
that's right. That's right. Until you learn what you're supposed to be doing. That's why I say that, this is my last hurrah. This is like, I will not be
Mm,
coming back. I'm ascending to the next phase of my life. Um,
nice.
because I've learned this is the realm that I learned. I always envision like, Doctor Strange, when in
Yes,
Infinity War, when he
multiverse.
right when he goes to all the different scenarios in the life. That's how we are. We're living so many different versions of ourselves
Yep.
in other universes and other realms that you know it's always repeating because we're still making the same mistakes until that one person changes the direction, changes the thought pattern, then they finally able to break through and get to the final destination because they've learned their lesson.
Now that is one heck of a confidence, because I believe it or not, I actually believe it might not be exactly on the money of how you kind of like spiritually believe it, but we toe the same line,
Yeah,
and I feel like I'm pretty developed. Like I definitely know that this is not my first rodeo,
right,
but I
right.
definitely know it's not my last.
Okay,
I can say
that's
that with
okay.
confidence. I definitely
Okay,
feel like maybe towards the end of it, but not a chance. Am I at the last one? That's one heck of a confidence to say you're at
yeah.
the last one.
I am at the last one. I know this for a fact.
What would give you that confidence?
Because I know everything that I've been through and all the forgiveness. I'm not holding on to the pain from the past, and I'm not regurgitating it and blaming. And I have such love and such peace in my heart. And I know that the mission work I'm doing right now, this is it. This is like the you know this is what I'm meant for, and I'm finally fulfilling my soul purpose and what I'm meant to do. And I didn't let fear stop me, because I think the first few times fear stopped me from actually taking that next step. I could have easily written these books and did nothing with them,
That's interesting.
right? I could have done nothing with them.
That's
I could
really
have just
interesting.
left it for my grandchildren to read, and that was it.
Hmm. How do
So,
you feel? How do you believe? What do you believe about like Nirvana and like Buddhism? Do you believe in that?
oops, oops, sorry. Did I lose you or you're okay?
No, yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine.
Okay, my computer was telling me like, shut down because I don't know what's happening.
Oh
Sorry.
God.
um, well, I don't know if I said this already because I'm not sure if I'm repeating, but I'm a spiritual light being. So
Hmm.
meaning I believe in God, I believe in higher power. I'm not a religious person. So I don't go into
Organized
religion.
religion,
Uh, exactly. Thank you. Organized religion, because I think it's very fear based. I think it's
definitely.
beautiful that you believe in something, and as long as that you're doing something, you're not harming other people or putting someone else down. I don't think that's right, but again, like, to each their own, whatever. I'm not here to judge. I don't believe in judgment, because the me if I said that, then that's judging people. I'm not judging. That's just who I am. So yes, I do believe in reincarnation. I believe that, because how can we not? How can we not? Because, like I said, we're light beings. These are just our vessels. So like I already repeated this. So I already said that we repeat the cycle until we fulfill our destiny and what we're supposed to do. And we get so caught up in our egoic human bodies and in emotions that it sometimes prevents us to completing the task that we're meant to complete. You know, because the universe doesn't owe you anything. God doesn't owe you anything. You're here for a purpose, and you're supposed to be here to serve humanity. And we're all here to serve in one way or another. It doesn't matter how you do it, you're here to serve. And until you fulfill that destiny, fill that vision that's supposed to be happening, you will continue to recycle and keep coming back until you learn that lesson.
My favorite thing that my mother ever told me when I was younger And I'm sure she, said it a lot nicer, but like the way that I just always put it down in my head, and it was just etched in stone forever, was I remember she said, because I mean, like when you're a kid, especially with like how good advertisement is, materialism is like your entire world. I mean, if you have a TV on and you're letting it run, believe me, your kid's destroyed. And I don't want to get too hippie about it either, because like it is kind of a back and forth. I mean, like TV's awesome. If you took a TV away from me as a kid, I probably wouldn't have been a writer. So again, double-edged sword.
That's right.
But um, so like just completely driven by materialism, just like begging my mom for X, Y, and Z, and obviously we don't have the money to like afford it. And I remember one day she was just like annoyed and was like, "Hey, listen, only thing, because I think that's what it was. I was complaining that like I felt like I deserved something, and she was like, "Listen, listen here. Only thing guaranteed in life is you being here and you leaving.
Yes.
Everything else is all you." And I remember it was like, again, it was just like that water bucket moment when you're like, oh. But then like the moment, like the wind hits you when you're kind of like, like dry off, you realize, yeah, okay, everything is me. And then like
That's right.
everything really just like goes from there, and just like it's like a tree coming out of an acorn. It's just like you now know where your roots are, and you know where to go up from. You know what I mean?
That's such a gift that your mom gave you. That
Oh,
scenario could have gone in
yep.
such a different way. I've had clients come to me for the same scenario where they went somewhere, they wanted a bicycle, and they're like, "Mom, please, can I have the bicycle?" And the mom snapped and said, "No, money's hard to come by. Money doesn't grow on trees." And that little message gets trapped into your subconscious mind. And then by the time you grow up and you're an adult, you're like, why I have such a hard time making money? Like, why I have such a hard time retaining, a career or whatever? Because you believed a story of a seed that was planted in your head when you were a child. Because by the time from conception to you're about 7 years old is the most important time that imprinting has happens in a child. So anything that is said to them, whether it's traumatic or not, it gets imprinted into their subconscious mind and makes them develop into the adults that they are. So until they break that story that that's not true, that's actually not me, then they can finally, take the step and come out of that cycle. So the fact that your mom said that to you was such a gift. I love it. Thank you, mama.
No, so that's just one of the pearls of the sea of things that she's like dropped in me. Honestly, I gotta give her a note. Honestly, just a weird thing to bring up. I hate kind of I have but again, it's just like the love of like literature, right?
Right.
I actually have a huge problem where I can't eat everything. Like in Spanish we call it eating with your eyes. It's like
Yes.
when you like have like you just like want everything, but you don't really like
Right.
finish all your food.
Right. Yes.
So as I'm like finishing up like all the series that I already have plotted out, that I've already been like like talking to all the people that listen to the podcast, to all the people that like follow me, that I should be working on. And over here, I'm just like fantasizing on this new idea that I have, right?
Right.
And I go to dinner, and I'm talking to like my family about it, and I give this idea, and my mom, I mean, she's a lifetime movie person. She doesn't do anything with action, no things like that. She wants everything tied up in a nice little bow. Exact opposite of my type of entertainment, right?
All right.
And so I'm giving her this idea, and she gives me a little seed that she's never given me, and it's completely changed the plot and the narrative to a way that has I never ever could have thought about it. Ever could have thought about it. Have you ever had an inspirational gap, or an inspirational I don't know, spear, arrow come from a family member like that, that just one little thing that just seemed to put your story completely into place? Like you might have thought that
Yeah.
like it was awesome before, but it's like, all right, now this is the
Right.
one right here.
Right. Like a really aha moment that just
Yeah.
solidified what you were thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's so many times. Like, how can you not, like, the fact that, when I put out the books and then my grandson, and even my daughter, honestly, to be truthful, my children, they had a hard time. We live in Whitby and it's very suburban, and Toronto's very multicultural, very diverse, but Whitby's more, it's not as diverse.
Mm.
And they were had a hard time growing up because people kept saying, what are you? Because they were half Persian, half Georgian. They were thinking they were Spanish, they were this, they were that. And they're like, we're human beings. I don't understand why you keep asking me, what am I? So the fact that these books, it was mostly inspired because of my grandson, but it solidifies that even my own children experience this pain of not fitting in and not understanding, why people kept asking them what their ethnicity was. So, and then, having other family members come by and say, thank you so much for putting these type of books out, because I love that my son or my grandson or whoever can see that their family, is being represented, because all children should be represented in the world, and they should see a representation of themselves, that it's a normal thing, and it's not a it's getting better now, I think, but like in my generation, there's so many kids that they were the only ones that came from multi, racial families, and it wasn't a big thing. They had to either be with their black friends or their white friends, and
Mm.
there was never a mix. If they were with their black friends, they're like, you act too white, and if they were with their white friends, you act too ghetto. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't understand that.
100%.
So right, so the fact that I'm giving this voice, that we're honey cakes, that means that we're a mix of ethnicities, that we have a little bit of spice, that we're all one. It doesn't matter where you come from. At the end of the day, we all have a little bit of spice inside of us. Really, there isn't really one, just unless you're only from Africa or only from wherever. You know what I mean? We're all have a little bit of something. We're
Hmm.
all mixed, and and that's the beauty of it. And just, seeing them feel you know the joy that they're feeling represented solidified that I was on the right path. Like, I'm like, this is exactly for these, families that are feeling left out, for these children who don't feel like they're being represented. Um, so yes, that was like, another stamp that said, I'm on the right path. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I love that you just, my God, I mean, there's so many aspects that I love, and honestly, I keep on staring at the illustrations that you have in the background. Beautiful banner that you have.
Yeah.
How did the whole illustration of it? How do you detail? Like, how do you translate the plot, like the text that you write, to the illustrations? How do they kind of match up? How do you go about your illustrations? How do you put them within the book? How do you put everything together?
Well, it's by the emotion that the person's feeling in the
Mm.
book. Like, because children, with the words, like for instance, like, whenever for counting on my blessings, like, I'm going to show you something. Hold on.
Hmm. Just make sure to
Hold
hold
on.
it up high.
I will. So here, Nala,
Beautiful.
can you see this?
Yeah, she's sick.
She's, yeah, she's angry. She's not sick. This is the green-eyed monster.
Oh, that's cool.
She's angry with jealousy. She's so angry that she turned into this green-eyed monster. That's why you see her teeth like that little monster. I can't see where I'm doing. Sorry, right there. I can't see it. But anyways, so and then you have like, see how the words pop out, like there's different colors. So you
Hell
want the
yeah.
words to pop out on the page exactly how if it was you speaking. Like, if you're yelling, it should evoke yelling. The word should be bigger. It should pop out. Like when she's like with this book, with when she breaks the mug, you see the word crash. You see the word crash comes tumbling down. So you're feeling the emotion in the words and her energy. I write it in a way that the feeling is there, the love is there, you feel the love, you feel the sadness, you put in that place because you resonate with what she's going through, because you've been through it yourself. Like,
Mm.
you've been through it yourself. Everything that Nala goes through in these books, you've been through it. I'm sure 100% that you've been through it. You broke something, you're afraid to tell your parents that something happened. But in the book, instead of the parents, with a circle of trust, instead of the parents right away accusing her of doing something wrong and reprimanding her, they just say, are you okay? If you're not okay, it's okay. You know what, I bought some blocks, come downstairs, let's build a big tower together. So they're building the tower. And so in every book there's a metaphor. there's always a metaphor of something that there it's being used. So in this
Mm.
book was the building blocks. So the building the tower, and it gets taller than Nala, and then the dad pretends he bumps into it, and it comes tumbling down. And she's like, "Oh no, Dad! All that hard work and time we put into it." He goes, "That's right, sweetheart. That's what trust is. Trust takes a long time to build, but in a split second, it can be destroyed when you're dishonest or when you do something wrong and don't tell the truth." So he's not saying what you did before. He's just saying with these blocks, he's giving her an analogy of what trust is like, that it takes a long time to build, but with a split second, it can be destroyed. And then they tell her that we have a circle of trust, that you can come to us for anything. If anything ever, if you're worried about something or anything goes wrong, we're here for you. So then she goes back to her room and she thinks about what her parents taught her. And then she remembers, oh my gosh, I broke that mug. And then she goes downstairs. She says, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I broke the mug. She doesn't say, oh my God, I'm just using those words.
Mm.
But, she remembers. So it's giving the empowerment to children to own up to what they've done without telling them what they've done. You know what I'm saying?
No, I 100% know what you're saying. And not only that is that I really like that you give a realistic point of view of the type of growth that people need. A thing that annoys me a lot of the kind of overreach of PC that we're going with lately is that it seems to like what is the quote? Like never appeal to a man's better nature because they might not have one. It's like it's like assuming too much. You know what I mean?
Right.
In the sense like a lot of people are all talking about like getting rid of bullying. But the thing is, and I heard like someone make like a great analogy of it because obviously the main analogy is like a no tolerance type of thing, and obviously a type of bullying that there's levels, there's certain
Right.
like things that shouldn't go on, but there is a little bit of it that I think is necessary in society because as you said that there's no getting rid of certain things. Like if you don't deal with a bully when you're like 8 years old, then what's gonna happen when you're like 30 and you have like a bully boss? And let me tell you, no level of social reform is gonna make bosses not bullies. I mean, it's not. I just don't see it. So
Mhm.
like. I was going off like this article that I read that was just genius. That was kind of proposing the thought, and how the person was just like kind of describing the situation was like imagine that you never had that kind of like developmental skill. And then by the time, and you have like an emotional breakdown when you're like 30, just because you were never able to, as you said before, properly communicate an emotion or, whatever it is. Because, I mean, I don't know, bullying is I think bullying is like internal too. It's not just like like an external force. It's like there's a lot of bullying. And on top of that, I'm obviously not, you know, uh, what's the word, advocating like doing the swirlies and all the crazy stuff, you know what I mean? But I think there is a little bit of just like childhood banter that needs to be real. Like you can't
I,
be
I,
like you
I,
can't
I,
like you can't say that you're going to get rid of all of it, but I think you just need to be prepare kids to better educate them, understand that there's going to be sharks in the water and how to maneuver
mhm,
around them, not just like say, not just put them in like a cup of like a goldfish and just like keep them in that little like water. It's like, nah, it's fine, there's nothing here, perfectly,
right.
no harm here.
I think there's a difference between banter and bullying. I think I know I
Maybe
understand
that's
where
what
you're
I'm talking
coming
about.
from, and I think that the wording is what we're gonna get hung up on here. So we're gonna kibosh the word bullying because it's there's such an emotion to the word, especially with the people that have gone through it.
Mm.
But having a banter is healthy, just like arguing. That's why people say you shouldn't argue in front of your kids. It's like, yeah, you should argue in front of your kids because they have to see that this is what life is about. Because people get upset, but it's also teaching them how we're resolving it. We don't just yell at each other and walk away. We actually, if we get upset, we discuss it, and they see that we also sit down and resolve our issues. We talk it through. So they need to see both sides of it, that it's normal to get upset. It's normal to have those feelings. Everybody has them. But then the resolution part of it and how you react, again, remember it's the react and respond aspect of it. So the same with, any situation in life. There are going to be challenges in life. But again, how are you going to overcome those obstacles? So it's a you have a voice. You use your voice. You use your words. You know, you have to learn how to speak up for yourself, and not let fear or the person overshadow you. So there's a difference. So yes, like things are going to happen in life, and those are lessons to be learned, however it is. But at the same time, it's learning how to stand up for yourself. So you're right. It is really important not to shelter our children, put them in this bubble and think that we're protecting them. We're actually harming them,
Mm.
but not letting them find their own way and their own path, because we're all here on our own journey. They're not, I can't protect someone and keep them in a bubble, because I have to let them live their life. I have to let them find their way. We're here to guide them and here to help them whenever they need it, but we can't live their life for them, right?
No,
Is that kind of,
100%.
yeah,
No, I'm in total agreement with you, and I agree with the point of banter versus bullying. I do feel like even as I was saying it, just
yeah,
like saying the words like bullying is like it's basically like I'm advocating bullying is okay. It's like I'm not saying that,
yeah.
but like that's why I like the way that you clarified it. Thank you for that. That hopefully I don't get any emails now, but because you are right. It's not bullying. It's
No,
banter. It's
that's
more like
right.
you know what I mean.
It's just
You need to
emotion.
be yeah.
It's
You need
just
to
a
be able to stick
human
up for
emotion.
yourself. Yeah.
That's right. It's just human emotion, and everybody expresses themselves in a very different way. And it's all about learning how to recognize your emotion and how to deal with it. See, there's so many books with children. They say, this is what happy looks like. This is what sad looks like. This is what anger looks like. But there's nothing that teaches them, well, when I'm happy or when I'm sad, how do I deal with it? Like,
Mm,
what steps do I take to
that's a good
overcome
point.
that? Right? Where my books do that. They give you the tool, they give you the resource to overcome it. With Counting on My Blessings, I call them emotional monsters. And emotional monsters aren't always bad. It doesn't mean that it's only jealousy. There's also happy and joy and grateful. Those are also emotional monsters, but there's a different one. So some of them make you feel good and some of them don't. So for her, she got so consumed with jealousy and anger that she turned into a green-eyed monster.
Mm,
And how the grandmother said dealt with it, instead of saying, reprimanding her, like I said, remember in the beginning, or giving her a sweet treat, she
mm,
said, let's sit down. First of all, communicate. Thank you for communicating and telling me how you feel. What you feel is completely normal. So telling them that what they're feeling is normal, not making them feel bad about what they're feeling. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Letting them know that, I felt this way before. Your mom felt this way. We've all done it. But you want to show you a way to overcome that? Yeah, for sure. Well, I start counting my blessings. What does that mean? Well, I think about everything I'm grateful for. And when you're in the emotion of gratitude, and when you think of everything that gives you joy, it releases the green-eyed monster. It releases the anger and jealousy, emotional monsters, and all of a sudden you have happiness and joy. The emotional monsters that come in and take over, and you feel happy. So that is a tool that she's giving her. That whenever you feel this way, start thinking about everything you're grateful for and everything that brings you joy. Because when you're in that energy feeling of happiness, you cannot feel angry. You can't
Mm,
have that same emotion. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You're so happy and joyful at that moment that that dissipates, and that's a tool on how to get rid of that emotion, that feeling. So, and then of course, she gives her the gratitude journal, and starting her on her gratitude journal to write down, you know, all the things that she's grateful for. And it could be something as simple as her favorite breakfast, or that she learned how to ride a bicycle, or a lesson she learned, something that didn't go her way that day that, was kind of challenging for her, but she's grateful for it because she learned something amazing from it. And that's the thing that people don't teach their children, is that we have to be grateful for our mishaps and our challenges, because we learn and grow from them. It's what shapes us to be who we are.
I love that. I mean, and it's the reason why I was actually very, very excited to speak to you today. It's because I'm a huge, I mean, especially if you kind of like go into like the most of that I've written so far, you almost won't believe it. But I really like children's series for the exact everything that we've said so far. I am a huge believer in the idea, and it's actually kind of ricocheted some of my own like plots that children really are the future. Like if we really could create a
Yes.
perfect generation of people that
Yes.
aren't emotionally damaged, and then we just let that cycle, those healthy children turn into healthy mature children, and they have children and they pray, oh, we could turn this around. I really do believe that.
Yes.
Wholeheartedly, I believe that.
Absolutely.
And
And
I
that's
think,
what I do. Yeah. Sorry. Go
no, no,
ahead.
no, you go ahead, please.
No, no, I was just agreeing with you. That's why I always say we can shift the universe into a positive direction by, teaching children these valuable life lesson tools at an early age while they're these little sponges, right? Just
Yes,
like you said, because children
yes.
are our future, and at the same time, while the parents are reading it, maybe they're getting something out of it too, a reminder.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if I can be honest, one of my first times that I ever wrote, I actually ever put my like hands to paper to every write ever, and I first got that feeling was
Yeah.
actually I was doing a co-op during college. I was being a social engineer, and what that really was, it was just like we were engineering school, and all I did was represent the school, like my engineering school, in social functions
Yeah.
throughout Boston and XYZ. And one of the things that we did is that we worked with the Boston Children's Museum actually,
Oh,
and we
nice.
made kind of like a cart that kids could go around, and the whole idea of it was that it was the idea of how playing isn't just playing, kind of like a recess thing, but playing is like as important to developmental and to learning and to educational purposes, and even more so than standardized testing.
Yes.
So, and that was the whole thing that we went into.
Mm-hmm.
So out of just like me being kind of like, like a motivated intern or whatever you want to call it, I was like, I'm gonna make like a little flip book. And the whole idea of the flip book was that I was gonna make kind of like a children's book based type of thing. And I literally just like made it like handmade, made all the little illustrations myself and whatnot. And the idea was that it was three stories, that it was the children playing with an adult. And the idea was that it was a children's book, or like it was kind of like illustrated for children, but the message was for adults. And
Right.
the idea was that I think it was that it was to show the different ways of playing, that
That's
like
right.
if when you like play with a child, that like if if they're building a rocket ship and you're the type of parent that goes like, oh well, rocket ships don't really have three wings like that, it's more
Right.
like
Yeah.
this, then you're kind of like stepping on their thing. You can't be surprised within 5 minutes later, if 5 minutes they just go and play with their Nintendo, because you just
Yeah.
took away that kind of like spirit. Now it's not fun for
Yeah.
them. And then
Right.
if you're not there at all, you know what I mean? They're excited about like a rocket ship that they just made, and you just turn to them and be like, "Oh yeah, that's nice. I'm playing, right? I'm doing X Y
Yeah.
Z." Then
Yeah.
you're doing the exact opposite.
Right.
So it was kind of like a middle ground, and
Right.
like that whole idea, and like again, it was just why I'm so excited to talk about today. Why it's just like everything that you're doing, I'm just so appreciative of, and just so
Thank you.
amazing that you're doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I have to say, while we're just like on the topic of just like your fortitude, Guinness World Record holder, what is that
Yeah.
about? What is going on
Okay.
there?
So last February, I was invited to be part of uh, a book that was a co-authored a book with a whole bunch of other people,
Mm,
where then that book was taken to the Guinness World Record, and the officiant came to Toronto, and there was 126 of us. So everyone that was there had a piece of their biography or whatever, a little blurb of themselves in the book, and we all had to sign it, the same book, at the same time or with our signature, and then that's how we broke the record, because the record holder I think was 106, and we broke it because we got 126. So we won that title. So it was just that.
for most signings of a book at one time?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh,
Yes.
that's awesome. That is awesome. Just to pivot a little bit, I'm gonna show off some of your website and where people can find you, some of your books.
Okay, sure, great.
So as you can see, we have your website up right here.
Yes, that's my website.
Honeybooks.com right there for all the people.
Honey cake books. Yeah, honey
Jesus,
cake books.
I'm over here
It's all good.
flipping
Honey
it.
cake books.
Honeycakebooks.com.
.com. Yeah,
Apologies. Here is
no
the
worries.
all the beautiful art. Oh, and you even have like a nice little register and whatnot.
Yep, yep. So what I have is I have an online store that people can purchase because I created an audio video experience where I have the full illustration, the full writing of the book on screen, but I'm reading the book to you.
Wow.
So they can purchase it for $9.99 on the store. I also have free printable coloring sheets. So there's like about 10 different ones the kids can print off. Yeah. So
Let
you
me
have
let me
story time.
let me
And
show
then I
all
also
this.
sell, like, see, those are the coloring sheets right there. Those are the autographed books. So if they wanted an actual autographed copy of my book, you get a paperback copy. But all my books are sold on Amazon worldwide. So there's links there if you want to purchase on Amazon. Yeah, uh, anywhere around the world. You purchase them, and then of course my YouTube channel has all my trailers and some interviews and whatnot. But and there's my Instagram. I was just put on the big screen in New York City for the billboard for the Pure VPN series. They were doing a spread love and hope out into the world, and I got to spread my message out. So that was really cool.
I'm just letting your video play out right here.
Yeah. So these are like little book trailers that was created that, shows what each book is and explains a little blurb about the books, you know, and yeah.
Beautiful. I love all the work that you've done so far. It's just phenomenal and amazing.
Thank you.
Just one more.
Thank
Oh,
you.
and your Facebook. I'm sorry. That's the one that I missed.
Oh,
Remember your
that's
Facebook
okay.
right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
I usually like to have the gambit for one of the YouTube videos actually released and whatnot.
Yeah.
So,
Perfect. Well, thank you so
yeah,
much.
no, yeah, no. Thank you for for everything that we've spoken about right now. This conversation has been phenomenal. Thank you for your time, and again, just so motivational and inspiration, everything that you've been talking about, and all the philosophy. Again, I am I'm almost doubtful that that you don't have like some type of psychological, sociological like background because I studied it, and you're up there. Like you know the terms, you know the things. Like there were a couple things that you said that I was like, yeah, that's from the family, and that's from the Family Matters class. That's like 103. What are you talking about? That's junior
Oh,
level sociology right
oh,
there.
I don't know. Maybe my past life I was a psychiatrist or psychologist. I don't know,
Possible,
but it could be that I'm downloading that information in this realm. I don't know. I'm
possible.
just I'm just saying what comes from my heart. Like I'm very transparent. What you see is what you get. There's nothing hidden here. So.
Yeah, and so far improvement again, Amazon.com. I mean, I've already showed you all the links, but you need
Thank you.
to support this phenomenal woman,
Thank you. Thank you.
power in the
Thank you.
industry, truly. And just I didn't even know that myself about the whole production thing. I really could not wish you more success.
Thank
Just,
you.
please. There's just
Thank you. Thank you.
truly just awesome with everything that you've been doing. Now,
Thank you.
just before we cut off, I usually like to ask people like what their favorite things are in a genre that aren't their own. So you like making children's book. What are your
Right.
favorite, what's your guilty pleasures? What do you like to watch when you're, you know, home
What
and
do,
you
what do I
want
like to
to
watch?
relax? Yeah.
Okay.
Movies, TV,
Yeah,
if
I
it's a
love
book.
movies. I'm a movie buff. I really
Yes,
do
me
love
too. Me
movies.
too. Huge movie buff.
I'm a movie buff, especially because my son is also an animator and directs himself. So he does like
Awesome.
mini indie films himself. So and then yeah. So for me, like I first of all, foremost, I just love being with my family. That's my number one
Yes.
go-to thing to be with my children or my grandson and whoever. Like family time is my number one favorite thing to do. And then, with movies, I'm kind of like, I'm one of those weird people that likes to watch anything and everything. It really doesn't matter. Like, I
Really?
don't look at the ratings. Like, I'll watch a really artsy film or really sci-fi. The only thing I don't really like, actually, to tell you the truth, I don't like horror films. I don't like anything that's gore and killing. And, there's a difference between, like, vampire movies and there's killer, but it's just not, it's different than,
Mm,
so like sawing someone and hacking them to death. I'm not a fan of that. But pretty much any film, like, I love the old school Hollywood movies, the black and whites, to the really crazy, like the Avengers, or you know what I mean, or like those indie films, like, Aquila and the Bees, like, something that's really emotional, or
yeah.
you know something that's historical. I really love British films, anything that's period piece. Um, I love that kind of genre, for me. And then, of course, with books is anything that's, inspiring.
Mm,
So anything from, reading Becoming from Michelle Obama, to like a metaphysical book, with what's it called? That trilogy that from Harry Potter, of course, things like that.
mm.
There's anything and everything. I just try to absorb as much as I can that I can learn something from. But I am still like a child in heart, and I love, um, magical elements to things. So, yeah, anything that's magical or mystical, I'm totally a fan of it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, again, it's just this has been phenomenal, phenomenal. We're just about at that point. Don't want to take too much more of your time.
Thank you.
You've given me so much already. Do you have any final thoughts, any closing statements that you want to say before we end the podcast?
Yes, I like to finish off with like my favorite little story that I always talk about, which is
Yes,
about
please.
the boy and the starfish. Have you heard of this story?
No, but I am willing and eager to hear it.
Okay, so there's this man walking down the beach, and it's a long stretch of a beach, and he sees this little boy picking something up from the ground and throwing it back to the water. And when he gets closer to the little boy, he says, "Young man, what are you doing?" And the little boy looks up at the gentleman and says, "There was a high tide last night, and all the starfish washed up on shore, and I'm picking them up and I'm throwing them back into the ocean." The man looks at the young boy and chuckles and laughs at him and says, "Do you know how many miles of beach there is? You're not going to make a difference." And the little boy picks up one of the starfish, throws it in the water, looks at the gentleman and smiles, says, "Well, I made a difference to that one." So the moral of the story is that each one of us has the ability to make a difference in this world, but together we can make a change.
That's beautiful. That's actually, I think, a derivative of like a religious story of like the priest and little boy in the beach, where the priest is walking down the beach, and there's a little boy, and the little boy is taking like cups of water and throwing it into the beach. No, no,
Okay.
the opposite. He's taking cups of water from the ocean and like putting into a hole. And the
Okay.
priest asked the little boy what he's doing, and the little boy says, "Oh, well, I'm bringing the beach into this hole." And he goes like, "Oh, you'll never understand that. Like the beach is like this huge thing, and you're putting into like a small little like empty space. It's not going to work out." And the kid looks up to him and just says, "Well, then you're not going to understand the Holy Spirit."
Ah, so good.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Again, like if, just religious stories and things like that. You gotta love fables and allegories. Which is, again,
Right.
everything what you're doing is just phenomenal. Thank
Thank
you
you.
again for everything that
Thank
you've
you.
done. Can you give people where to find you, just as a last mark?
Again, at Honeycake Books, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at Honeycake Books, or www.honeycakebooks.com is my website. So I'm there. If you want to connect with me, DM me. I'm more than happy to share whatever I can with you. Yeah, love to connect. Sending blessings of love and light. Thank you so much for this honor of being with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the end of the podcast, AR's Tales, aka the A.R.T podcast. I am A.R. Mirabal. This is Medea. No, Medea. Oh my God. Medea. Oh my. Everything's going to hell.
No, it's not. It's
Uh,
all good.
uh, Medea, over the moon for
Kalantar.
everything.
Thank
Well,
you.
yes. No, because I thought we were at the first name base. So I thought we were
Oh
friends.
yeah, yeah, we are. We are. Sorry, I thought you were trying to say the last name and you were struggling, so I was trying to help you.
No, no,
I
no, no, oh, no,
apologize.
no. But thank you again, making things even easier. This is the end of the podcast. Check with us on next Monday. Thank you very much. Peace out.